Hey everyone, it's Hans, and welcome back. Fortnite. It is one of the world's most popular and biggest battle royale titles. As a result, there are a lot of tie-ins to the game, whether those are really cool Nerf guns, or perhaps a game of Monopoly. Now, I'll be absolutely honest, when Hasbro sent this over for me to review, I kind of looked at it and was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be any good. It looks like a cash grab. But, and I'm happy to say this, I was pleasantly surprised to find that it's actually excellent. It's probably one of the best versions of Monopoly I have ever played. And I mean that, I truly mean that. As someone who isn't a massive fan of Fortnite, I was genuinely surprised at how good the Monopoly Fortnite actually is. And this is why I decided to do this review, because I've been enjoying it so much that I felt that I needed to share it with you all. At first glance, the Fortnite Monopoly looks exactly like other versions of Monopoly. It even has very similar tiles, as in there's a free parking, there's a go to jail, there's a go tile, and there's even a visiting jail. However, that is where the similarities end, and the game has actually been completely retooled seemingly from the ground up, to the point where the game is Monopoly in name only, and this could have just been a Fortnite board game and sold as is. Of course, using the Monopoly brand name means it'll reach a wider audience, and for good reason, because it genuinely is very good. In fact, there's so many changes to Fortnite Monopoly when compared to normal Monopoly that it takes a good 30 to 40 minutes to actually become acquainted to the new rule set. That's how many differences there are. However, when you're used to it and after a few rounds of play, it becomes second nature, almost to the point where you kind of would hope that maybe traditional Monopoly might borrow some pointers from Fortnite Monopoly. Yeah, it's really that good. Some of the more obvious changes are how Community Chest has now become storm cards and loot drops, which I'll explain a little bit later on in the video, and how luxury tax tiles have become camps and spike traps. That's right. Unlike traditional Monopoly, whereby the game is focused on money and property, Fortnite Monopoly is actually based on staying alive. So instead of money, you actually have health point tokens, which are used to keep you alive. You can have a maximum of 15 in the game per player, and as a result of these health point tokens, the aim of the game is to try and stay alive for as long as possible while taking the least amount of damage that you can. Much like in Fortnite, and before Fortnite Monopoly begins, players must select their characters. And the good news on this front is that there are 27 different skins available. Once your skin has been picked, you have to quickly take your character and place it somewhere on the board on one of the many available locations. This kind of emulates the whole battle bus feel from the actual video game, and it's quite cool because the first person to place down their character gets to go first. In terms of locations on the board, unlike traditional versions of Monopoly where the aim of the game is to accrue funds, to purchase properties and then build hotels, in Fortnite Monopoly, whenever a player lands on a location, they immediately take it for themselves. If a player manages to get two of the same color, those locations will then give them HP. Of course, competing players who land on properties or locations that you own will lose HP. One of the other bigger changes of Fortnite Monopoly is that the game actually has two dice. One for movement and another for actions. The movement die works normally. You throw it, you get a figure, and then that's how many tiles you're allowed to move. The action die, on the other hand, is ever so slightly different. This allows you to shoot other players, to build walls, to gain HP, and then, of course, there is also a boogie bomb, which essentially destroys all walls on the game and damages all players 1 HP. Much like the video game, you can even build walls in Fortnite Monopoly. Now, walls in this game do two things. They can either stop you from moving or prevent any damage taken from other players. And this is really great because it adds a level of strategy to the game that was quite unexpected. So for example, let's say you roll a 6 and in 2 tiles from where you are, there is a wall. However, there is also a player in 5 tiles from where you are. So the cool thing about that is that you get to choose what you'd like to do. As in, you can either move and get stopped by the wall and then shoot the other player, or you can shoot the wall away and then move further on, perhaps collecting some sort of a loot chest or loot item. So there is a pretty cool level of strategy to the game, which really helps to enhance the gameplay and keeps it really fresh throughout the match. Better still is the addition of loot. That's right. Fortnite Monopoly actually has cards in the form of loot chests, whereby you pick them up and they offer different kinds of abilities. Now what's cool about loot is that they come in different rarity, where you can get common, legendary and epic. And the best part about the loot is that they can actually be combined. So generally in the game, in order to shoot someone, that would be in your line of sight, meaning they must be on the same side of the board that you are on. However, there are items that allow you to shoot anywhere on the board, and those can be combined with other loot that allow you to deal even more HP, for example. So there's really a lot of cool strategy elements with regards to loot. And of course, just like Fortnite, if you happen to die and you have some really cool loot, all that loot gets dropped on the space where you perished and can be picked up by another player. In addition to loot forming some really powerful combinations, players also have to look out for the storm. That's right. Fortnite Monopoly has the same storm that is featured in the actual video game, the one that constricts the playing field. It does something very similar in the board game, in the sense of there are actually storm cards which players need to pick up every time they go to jail or whenever they pass go. And these storm cards invalidate properties along the board, resulting in extra HP being lost should a player land on them. It creates a really great effect in terms of ensuring that people are always watching where they're going and, hoping for a better roll, and it really just makes the game quite entertaining. In terms of the game, something that impressed me is how quick matches actually are. So much like the video game, which takes about 20-30 minutes, Fortnite Monopoly takes about 20-30 minutes. And what was really great about that is that every time I played with a group of people, they just wanted more and more. Mainly because they're enjoying themselves so much, they can't believe that the game is actually over. And that is honestly something that I've never really experienced with another version of Monopoly. You know what I'm talking about. Normally you end relationships with Monopoly. You don't kind of want to play again and again. Whereas with Fortnite Monopoly, it honestly just comes through and it's fast paced and it's action packed and it's just really good. As good as it is, of course, it's not perfect. And honestly, this is a small criticism, and it has to do with the fact that Hasbro haven't included anything in the box in terms of, putting the pieces away. You kind of just have to throw it in the box. I mean, there aren't little baggies or anything, and although it's a small complaint, it would have been nice to have, especially because of how good the game is, and how fast-paced it is, and just how great it is. I think one of the most interesting things about this game is that I played with people who weren't even interested in Fortnite, people who don't genuinely play video games, and they actually really enjoyed it. When I eventually brought up the fact that Fortnite Monopoly is based on the popular Battle Royale title, many of the people I played with expressed some shock. I mean, many of them had heard of Fortnite, but they didn't expect that this version of Monopoly would be as good as it was, and honestly, neither did I. And it's a really pleasant surprise, and I can personally recommend this to anyone who enjoys Fortnite or just enjoys board games as a whole. It really is good. Well, there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Ciao for now.